مرحبا شباب وصبايا، أهلا بكم في كاستم تايم. اليوم سنتكلم عن ساعة مميزة جدا لصديقي فادي. فاستعدوا وجهزوا الخمس لأن حان وقت كاستم تايم. يلا يلا.
وقت غروب الشمس واقف على البحر بعيد، عمال بحكيله واشكيله واشرح واعيد. فجأة لقيتها وكنت فاكرها عروسة البحر، خارجة من المية وطلتها أقوى من السحر. لما شفتها قلبي دق 3 دقات، والطبلة دخلت لعبت جوا دماغي حاجات. لما الرق دخل قلبي رق وحنيت، طب هعمل ايه؟ رحت انا غنيت امتى الحب طار.
Hello, and welcome back, friends, to a very exciting installment of Custom Time. As always, I've got this lazy watchdog with me, and hopefully she doesn't disturb the activities too much by barking at the neighbors, because I am very excited to present this watch. So first things first, allow me to apologize at the outset to all of my Arabic-speaking friends in case I completely butchered that intro. All right, moving on. So this is, for the first time, not my watch. This is for the first time I am showing off a custom build that was not done by me. This watch was built by my good friend Fadi, who you may know from Instagram if you follow watch stuff on Instagram as Shtozo. That's SCHTOZO. And he is a fantastically nice guy. Loves talking to people about watches and how and the custom biz, the custom world game, and how to do things, and loves sharing information. And he is in many ways I see him as kind of a mentor in this mod game, because many of his builds, including this one, inspired some of my kind of style and approach to modding watches. So without further ado, let's get into this. Now, he calls this the Seiko, which stands for Lebanese Seiko, or Seiko Lebanon. So let's kind of just give a little bit of history first out. So Fadi is from Puerto Rico. He grew up and was born in Puerto Rico. His parents, however, both come from Lebanon. And he, at a very young age, started learning Arabic. He himself actually speaks, I think, at least 3 different languages, possibly 4. Obviously Spanish, English, Arabic, probably some other stuff. I don't know. All kinds of stuff. Anyway, that's always something that impresses me, people who speak multiple languages. Anywho, moving on. So he started learning Arabic at a very young age and spent quite a bit of time in Lebanon. So this watch is a kind of an homage or a tribute to those his heritage in that sense. There is just so much going on here. This will definitely take me some time, because this is not just a mod. This really is a completely custom built watch with custom built components. This video will take a little bit more time than usual, but let's just kind of just give it a quick little roundabout view, a little bit of a 360 view, just so you guys get some good images of this fantastic build. There's just not a single detail on this piece that has not been thought out carefully by Fadi, all the way down to this fantastic ratcheting expandro bracelet, which is fully adjustable with just a quick press of the button there, and also has these springed links on each end as well, which makes it just so incredibly comfortable. Oh, there she goes. Someone must be walking a dog over there. Anyway, back to the watch. As I go here, we'll try to do some close-ups of all the components so you get a really good view of everything. As I said, I really want to do this justice. So let's start right there from the face of this watch. Taking a closer look at the dial, you can see that everything was intricately engraved and then both color-filled and lume-filled in the appropriate spots. Now let's take a closer look at the writing on the dial. Up top, of course, we have Seiko, and then the following three lines are actually in French. This is because French is one of the official languages of Lebanon. Lebanon at one point being a French colony. So beneath Seiko, we have anti-magnétique, which is obviously anti-magnetic, then imperméable, which is impenetrable, and then below that is étanche 300 mètres, which is waterproof to 300 meters. Looking now at the bottom half of the dial, we've got the writing in Arabic, which translates to the Republic of Lebanon. And then below it, you see the tree, and that is a cedar tree, and cedar is the official tree of Lebanon and appears on the Lebanese flag. On the outside, as you can see, the indices at 12, 6, and 9 are in Arabic. Those elements are not loomed, but the smaller indices track on the inside, index track on the inside, is fully loomed, and we'll give you guys a quick loom shot here. Now, in regards to the overall look of this dial is actually inspired by ZRC watches. If you are not familiar, ZRC is a company that's been around for a very long time. In its current incarnation, I believe it was restarted, the brand purchased by someone who really loved ZRC and wanted to restart making them, and they still make really, really phenomenal dive watches. The really unique thing about ZRC is that they have a crown at 6 o'clock with the bracelet works in such a way that it does not allow you to move the crown while you're wearing the watch, for an extra protection for diving, to make sure that it doesn't move accidentally, unscrew, what have you. Anyway, so you can see this basic, the hatches, the inside loom track, all of this kind of feel is inspired by ZRC and just works so fantastically with those Arabic numbers. I just cannot state that enough. Now, real quick, the dial itself, not to mention that this amazing bezel insert were both made by Steven Dexter. He is a legend on Instagram. He is a watch modding legend. The man is basically, he does the kinds of things that I know myself and many other modders, I would say probably all modders, aspire to do. He, as you can see, can just do these amazing pieces from scratch, completely custom dials, bezel inserts, also the Caseback engraved, and we'll talk about that in more detail as well later, is also done by Steven Dexter. As we're moving on, let's look at this bezel insert. This is bakelite. It's not glass, it's not sapphire, it's not some other material. This is actual bakelite. Steven Dexter figured out a way to make bakelite bezel inserts. It is also, as you saw in the loom shot earlier, fully loomed, and I mean, I don't even have words for how amazing this looks. For however good you think it looks in this video, it just looks a bajillion times better in your hands on the wrist. The numbers all have this three-dimensional feel to them. In fact, the loomed numbers are essentially injected into the into the bakelite bezel from behind. Just amazing work, really amazing work. Amazing. And once again, the numbers are in Arabic in the bezel insert as well. Moving on to this bezel right here, this coin edge bezel, very, very nicely made coin edge bezel. Comes from Dagaz watch. You've known from some of my other builds that I use Dagaz a lot, and they do quality stuff, and I really like this particular coin edge bezel. It's different from a lot of other ones because of kind of this chamfering to where it comes to a higher end over here, and it kind of tapers off on the sides. It really gives this watch a classy look. Okay, so let's take a quick look at this crystal. As you can see, this crystal is not your average bear. This is a completely custom-made crystal that was made specifically for this watch by Freehand Customs. It is acrylic, and it is amazing. Now, here is a fun bit of irony here. Traditionally in watches, the original purpose of the bezel was to protect the crystal, okay? Classically in watches, especially old watches, crystal was pure glass. The bezel would basically protect the crystal from bumps and whatnot, so you would not shatter the crystal or scratch it as easily. Now, here is the ironic turn here. Bakelite is quite a bit more susceptible to scratches and damage and things of that nature than your typical bezel inserts. Luckily, though, with this large crystal, the crystal, in a sense, is actually protecting the bezel or the bezel insert in many instances. So if you were to bump this or what have you, obviously, you would try your best not to, but if that was to happen, there's a pretty good chance that this mother of a crystal would protect the bakelite insert. Now, what about the crystal, you might say? Well, luckily, since this is acrylic buffs out very, very quickly and easily with some polywatch or even toothpaste or barkeeper's friend. So you accumulate some scratches here and there. You go to town with a little bit of elbow grease and polywatch or toothpaste, and sure enough, you go right back to its original beautiful shine or clarity, so to speak. Okay, so there it is. We have the front of the watch. We have our dial. We've got our bezel insert, bezel crystal. The hands. These are basically reproduction. 6105 Willard hands, and they work fantastically in this watch. Let's go ahead and rotate. Let's just take a quick look at this case. So this case is actually the only truly original Seiko component in this whole thing. It comes from an old 2003 or 2013 by the original serial number. Skx007. If you really wanted to, you could call this a mod because of this one element. Obviously, this is really not. This is a custom build watch, and that's all I'm going to say about that. The crown comes from Crystal Times. It's their snake engraved double gasketed crown designed for the Skx007. It's an upgrade. Moving on, let's take a look at this caseback. Once again, a wonderful engraving job by Stephen Dexter. Let's see if I can get a good lighting for it. I'll give you guys a close-up. But once again, special, this basically, these are some special dates for Fadi that he wanted engraved on the case back. And once again, harking to Lebanon, we've got the map of Lebanon, we've got the cedar tree, which if you take a closer look is actually in green. So the color-filled engraving there in green. And then we've got the actual serial number of the watch, and you can see the 3 there as that first number, meaning that the this original Skx007 was built in 2003 or 2013. It's impossible to really specify beyond that if you're familiar with Seiko serial numbers. On the inside, we've got a Seiko NH35 or NH36 movement, so it is hacking and hand winding. Oh, so many turns on this crown. It's fantastic. Just really, really smooth. There we go. It's hacking. Bam, all the way in. Winds by hand. Very smooth. Very nice. Very, very nice. All right. Last bit. And I saved this for last because I usually would with the bracelet. And also because this is by far the most personalized custom work done by Fadi himself, and that is this bracelet. It is not just as it seems. This bracelet is actually made of several components that were fabricated by Fadi himself in order to fit together. So let's start with a bit of history. If you are familiar with Doxa, they used to use what is called an expandro bracelet on their older dive watches. The current Doxas use kind of a standard expanding link, the same that you would find in an Omega Seamaster. But the traditional ones, the old ones from the 70s, 60s, and 70s, used expandro. They also came on these beads of rice bracelets. Now, those are not readily available these days. And also, they are not really meant to fit Seiko. So this is how Fadi solved this problem. Starting out, this is a Seiko beads of rice bracelet. Okay, it's a slightly narrower one, which is something that would gives it this vintage look. These end pieces, these end links, are completely custom made. Fadi shaped these out of galvanized steel using hand tools. Basically cutting, shaping, bending it into the desired shape, cutting out the slots for these beads of rice right there, and fitting it to this case. Now, as I said, then the rest of this bracelet here is a Seiko beads of rice. There is actually 3 separate manufactured bracelets here that make this one whole bracelet. So let's move on to these, a different bracelet component that I don't recall this specific element where it comes from, but this is another bracelet, a completely different bracelet that component that bracelet that Fadi used. Once again, creating these, making these kind of cutting out these specific shapes to fit these beads of rice and folding around. And then lastly, this clasp is an actual NOS new old stock expandro clasp. So basically, in order to make his own Seiko expandro bracelet, he combined this these custom homemade and bracelet ends, this 18 millimeter Seiko beads of rice bracelet, these expandable components, and finally this new old stock expandro clasp that he got through his friend in the Netherlands. Now, just so you can get a view of how truly awesome this thing is, this bracelet is, and how comfortable it is. So we'll go ahead and unclasp it, and as soon as you unclasp it, the ratchet releases. Okay, so we're going to put it on, clasp it. Now, it's fully loose. Just give it a push to ratchet it into place. Now, beginning of the day, you know, probably have it a little tighter. You know, you're not bloated or whatnot from the day's activities. You know, let's say as the day goes on, your wrists tend to kind of swell a little bit, and this can get a little uncomfortable. All you do is give this a little, press the button, release this a little bit, maybe ratchet it back in to get it just the way you want it. This bracelet is super light. Obviously, these little expanding elements also allow it to kind of expand throughout the day and keep keep it from really cutting into your wrist. Man, I've been wearing this thing quite a bit over the last week or so, and I am just so delighted. And I wish that these were something that was available just for anyone to get. Fadi has been continuously making little bracelet adjustments like this for quite some time now, and I may have to ask him to make one for me. All right, so there it is, the Seiko Lebanon diver. An amazing watch. I can't even. I hope you guys like it. Check out Shtozo on Instagram. Comment what you think of this watch below. Check out Steven Dexter for his amazing dials and other amazing custom watch components. And, check me out. I'm cool. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I was very excited to make it. And salam alaikum, friends.
This is kind of catchy. I like it. Okay, so I don't know the words, but I assume they're singing about cheese. Most songs should be about cheese. All right, bye, watch nerds.